Well, good morning and welcome to the first look at Albacore 6061. This will be the new boat for Jamie Booth. So without further ado, here we go. So we'll start at the back because I want to save a surprise for the front. So this boat, Sita, by the way, means whale in Latin, I'm told. Anyways, on the left, the two protuberances, I believe, are an outboard motor mount, so those will come off. There's no rudder retaining clip, so that'll have to go on. So this boat has a rear traveler, which is interesting because its number, 6061, is only about 100 boats different than 6161, Evan's boat, the Green Hornet, which actually has a central traveler. So at some point, I guess the decision was made. It looks actually to be the same piece. We will actually probably keep this, mostly because to remove it is going to leave a ton of holes, not only a bunch in the back where the screws are, but you can see the fitting as the lead goes through the hull. And then it actually exits the hull down at the top of the buoyancy tanks and up to that cleat there on both sides. So we'll probably leave that intact, just as I say, just to lessen the amount of hardware that gets removed. This little block I'll return to in a moment. So it needs hiking straps, and that's fine, that's easily done. It has a standard Skene cleat with lacing hook to hold the centerboard up when in place. We've taken the board out because it needs to be refinished. So straps, that's easily done. Mast step seams in good repair, replace the bolts. But here's the key on this boat. There is not a seam seal issue the entire length of the boat. Like, this is just unbelievable for a boat this old. There's just nothing. So that's the port side. I won't bother showing the starboard, but it's exactly the same. There's not any hull repair issues to be done with this boat at all. So, as we move forward, the standard era Barton main sheet pedestal and cleat, that'll come off and be replaced. And, as I said, there's that little turning block back here, and that's because there's some other stuff up here. And that is because this boat was rigged from the factory for spinnaker. So you'll see that there's the turning block and the guy cleat, and the same thing on the other side. Here is the cleat for the pole up hull, and there's the spinnaker halyard cleat just at the aft of the centerboard trunk. All of that we're going to take off. So as we move along, still on this side, that's the jib fair lead system. So it goes, the jib sheet would go through that plastic fair lead and across to the corresponding cleat on the far side over there. It's interesting how far back the jib fair leads are and the jib cleats. So you can see that's probably, I make that about 2 feet maybe, 22 inches, somewhere in there for the cleat. These days we put the cleat about 2 inches from the shrouds, so right about here. And the reason for that being that we want to move the crew weight as far forward as we can, and that's tough when you're trying to sit on top of this. So that'll all come out, and we'll put a standard jib track with a ratchet block, and that'll also require the installation of some inspection ports, again, on both sides. Just before we leave the hull, so despite having factory installed spinnaker gear, whoever the original owner was decided not to check the box for either transom flaps or for floor bailers. So you flip this bad boy, you're bailing, but you can sail with spinnaker if you'd like. So I'm not really keen about digging out a hole for two transom flaps, but we will be installing floor bailers in this boat just as a safety measure. You can't have just that as the only way of bailing the cockpit if you flip. So no. As we move forward, I should just mention, so the hull gel coat is badly faded, as you can see. This is not something that is of concern, and I'm just going to put an insert to show what we did with Tangerine Dream and how well it came back. Okay, so we're back. Just approaching the bow now. These two chocks up here are for an anchor. Those will be coming out, and I promised a surprise, and here it is. Look at this. This boat comes with a padlock on an installed bow eye. But because I guess we're totally anal, we put a piece of something or other so that the padlock, when it bangs around, doesn't damage the hull. Gotta love it. Notice also the black tape to keep it from bouncing around. That'll be coming off when it has a date with Mr. Grinder. When we look at the hull itself, stunning condition. I'll try to go this way out of the shadow. So look at the bow stem. This boat has never been run into a dock. There's not any damage on the bow stem at all. So the hull, the underside is dirty. That's no big deal. A date with Mr. Power Washer will fix that. But there are no scratches. There's no bumps. There's nothing. This hull is absolutely mint. Try and get underside. And even on the underside, there are not any scrapes. It has not been dragged up on rocks. Okay, I lied. There's one scrape here. But it's not been pulled up on rocks. There's just nothing. It does need a new centerboard slot rubber because the current one appears to be a bicycle intertube. But other than that, here I can go down the side out of the shadow, but you can see this hull is absolutely flawless, except for the dirt. It's just really quite amazing to have found a boat this old. I say old, so it'll be the third newest boat in our fleet behind the Stealth Pig and Green Hornet. But look, there's nothing. It's just nothing. So it needs to be washed, it needs to be polished. There's a couple of small gel coat scraps there, I lied, but there's basically nothing. So, you know, it needs some TLC, and it needs new control lines, and it needs the rig modernized, but other than that, this boat is good to go. Now, having said that, come with me. So, there's my dog. Apparently, actually I saw it. They broke or bent cracked the original mast. So somewhere along the line, they got a replacement Proctor spar. So we have the Proctor spar. There's no spreaders, but there's spreaders on the old mast, which I can get. And there's the Proctor Gold boom. The problem with this mast, I'm a big believer in the Proctor Gold spar. It's on Daffodil, and that seems to be a fairly fast boat, is that this must be a fairly old gold spar because it runs the halyards, as you can see, not inside the mast, but inside the mast track. That's problematic because our experience with that generally has been that it jams the bolt rope on the sail, making the sail really tough to raise. So that is an issue. I'll come back to it in a moment. So there's the Proctor boom. This, of the three booms, the one on the far right is the boom that came with, I guess, the original spar that they had, complete with one of these classic spindly things on the end. But this boom here is the one that came off 6161, and it doesn't have a spindly thing on the end, but it's exactly the same boom. So we're going to be taking the old 6161 boom and putting it on this boat. And you'll notice it doesn't have the spindly thing on the end, but it does have a fitting to mount a block on the very end of the boom, and that we need because of the Traveler. I'll come back to the mast just before we go here, though. Here's the centerboard. So the centerboard was in the boat, and the boat was upside down, so you can see there has been some weathering, but we'll redo that. Otherwise, it's in good shape. Rudder is basically in mint condition. It's an old beaver tail style Barton head, but it's in really good shape. It won't even be needed refinishing. What didn't make the trip over was the tiller, but I'll go get that. So stand by and I'll show you the mast option. Welcome to my backyard. So I still have 3 masts which came in the load of stuff that I got from Skene Sailing Club when they got out of the Albacore business. The one on top, no offense, but I'm saving it because it is a really good super spar racing boom, or racing mast rather, and it needs to be saved for a very special application. The other 2 masts, this one oddly is a Holt Allen, but it's got spreaders, and it's got, you can see here, it's got a magic box, it's got internal halyards, all of those have got to be replaced. And this one, same deal, internal halyards. It doesn't have a magic box, and it doesn't have a gooseneck, but I got lots of goosenecks lying around, and I think I actually made a custom one for this a couple of years ago, so it's probably lying about. And it has spreaders. One of these, and I think it's the Holt Allen, is slightly bent. Anyways, once I'm mobile and don't have this stupid cast on anymore, thanks to the dumb dog, I'll pull these 2 masts down, and we'll make a decision as to what we do. But I don't think I want to use that Proctor spar just because of the external halyards. The only other parting comment on this boat is that the sails. So the sails, yeah, well, the sails are the sails. But I still have a really good set of north sails from the Skene Sailing Club material that arrived here. So I'm going to, well, I'm in the process of having some small repairs done to it, that set rather, and then we'll substitute those in, and this set of sails, which is not bad shape, it's just, not mint, we'll move these on to the Brian Beveridge boat, whose sails, or which sails require some replacement. So that's the idea there. This boat came with a top cover. There it is there. I haven't unpacked it because I've only got one hand, so I can unpack it, but I will never get it repacked. And actually, there's the spinnaker. So we now actually have 2 Albacore spinnakers. I picked up one somewhere, I'm not sure where. Oh, I know, the boat that went to the dump that I picked up in Deep River came with a spinnaker. So that's it. That is 6061. And we end with a nice zoom shot. So first order of magnitude, first order of operation is for me to lose the stupid cast. Second order of operation will be to clean and wet sand the top of the hull. We're then going to flip the boat and wrap it for the winter. And then I've got the new centerboard gasket on order, and if it arrives before we wrap the boat, I'll put it on at that point, and then in the spring we'll flip it back up and put the new stuff on, because there's no real work to do on the hull. So there's no, I've got enough time between the snow going and me leaving for the lake to get this thing done. So it's just a super boat. The guys that came to help me move it yesterday couldn't believe the condition it was in. So there you go.